So before we get into learning the techniques to actually be good with women and actually have success with women, we need to understand what the hell we're learning. What is game? What is attraction? What is all of this stuff that we're going to dive into in much more detail? And if you asked anyone in society, what is being a good seducer? What is game? What is attraction? And a lot of the time you would hear people say, oh, it's just manipulation. It's just kind of, doing weird, dark stuff that will make women do the things that you want them to do, right? That's typically the consensus in society, and people who don't understand what I talk about, they will assume that it's something to do with manipulation, put in a front, put in a mask, okay, and not being your real self. Alternatively, some people will actually ask others on what is attraction. They will go up to women and they will say, what do you find attractive? What guy do you actually want? And there is a problem with asking women exactly what they want and what they find attractive in men, because there is two problems. The first one is when they say this, they are saying it in a tinted lens. So they are saying it in a idealistic world, meaning that they already like the guy, they already are attracted to him, and they just want him to be himself. They just want him for themselves alone, and they just want him to essentially treat them nice, right? And if you're not that guy yet, if you're not attractive yet, it's hard for you to get in the attraction radar in the first place. It's hard for you to get in a relationship and be just, not even a relationship, but just be attractive to that girl, for her to consider you, to be nice to her, to be yourself with her, right? Some of you guys have not even got over that first hurdle of being attractive to her in the first place. And that leads me on to the second issue, which is when she says just be yourself, she's referring to the attractive guy that she already is attracted to. So if you're not in and of itself attractive yourself in your default state, being yourself at that point is not going to get you the result that you're after. Because if you're not attractive in your core, in the way that you're being already, well, just being yourself is not going to work. This is why that is bad advice. And this is a problem because of something called social conditioning, okay? Social conditioning, as you know, is basically the way that we learn everything in society, in life, growing up as kids, etc., etc. So the way we learn as human beings is through a filtering process that we have. And that process is very simple. It has 3 stages, 3 filtering stages. Say, for example, somebody walks up to you and say, hey, look, if you clap your hands, you're going to make a sound. And say you've never clapped in your life before, how are you going to come to the conclusion that this person is lying or saying the truth? And that is through this filtering system, which has 3 steps. So the first step is how certain in their idea of clapping hands will make a sound are they, right? How certain in their ideas are they that what they're saying is real? The second filtering mechanism is how aligned is their behavior with their idea, meaning when they're trying to talk to you, are they kind of jittery? Are they being kind of nervous and they're starting to sweat and everything like this, right? Is their behavior aligned with their idea? And the third and final filtering system that we have is how many people buy into that idea, okay? So the more people buy into a belief, an idea, the more we are likely to believe those things. Now, that is incredibly useful because it means that you can learn quicker. It means that you don't have to go and try everything yourself to find out whether it's true or not. But it comes with a lot of downsides. And the downsides that it has is that you're letting other people think for you. That is counterintuitive with what we're trying to achieve. And the second downside is that most of the information that goes through this funnel, this filtering system, especially about success with women, is wrong. So you have been conditioned and you have been taught the wrong ideas, the wrong framework, and the wrong principles when it comes to this stuff. And that is why you are stuck where you are today. This is why you believe some of the things that you believe today, which hold you and put the brakes on your results with women. Okay, so what is attraction? Well, attraction is, boil it down as value. Okay, anything that's valuable, anything that will help you reproduce and survive. That is value. And beyond this, value is anything that makes you feel good, right? It's anything that makes you feel like you're doing something that is positive for you. For example, sex, exercise, even the sunshine. On a good day, you feel good about yourself because that contributes to positive emotions. Anything that is helping you procreate and survive, or that is providing you with positive emotions, is value. However, on a side note, there are things that we find value in that are toxic. For example, procrastination. Another thing is junk food. Another thing is alcohol. That can give you the positive emotions that you're after, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily positive for you long term. And the reason for this is because back in the caveman times, our biology wasn't wired for long-term survival. It was more so wired for immediate, instant survival. And that's why if you found whatever food you could find at that point in time, you would eat it because you knew that it would help you survive at this very moment in time. So just be aware of this, that we do find value in some things that are toxic, and that applies in relationships and game as well. You'll find people being in relationships that are very toxic to them, but because there is such a roller coaster of emotions, of positive and negative and positive and negative, it does provide that level of addiction. And that is kind of the positive emotions that we can get addicted to, the endorphins. That is something to be aware of when it comes to positive emotions, value, and all the emotions that you can essentially experience. And on the topic of man cave times, attraction hasn't changed since then till this day, meaning that what women were attracted to back in the days in the man cave times are still attraction, or they're still attracted to nowadays. Back in the days, things like your personal possessions, your looks, or how much money you had wasn't really a attraction trigger. It wasn't something that they found attractive. And these things still don't matter today. Okay, so you might ask yourself, what is attractive to women these days? What are these attractive triggers? Well, things like dominance, conviction, resourcefulness, decisiveness, being dominant, being confident, if I haven't mentioned it already. These are all things that are subcommunicated. These are all things that say more about yourself as a man than anything that you could buy, that you could wear, or any words that you could say. And the reason why women use this kind of filtering process of figuring out what kind of man you are and how much value you're able to provide to them is because you cannot fake the subcommunication, even if you tried. It's the deeper layer communication that women look for. But even when you say this to guys and you will tell them, okay, decisiveness, fearlessness, all these things, okay, got it, this is what they're attracted to. What they will go and do, they will go to women and they will start spilling out their CV. They will tell them, hey, look, okay, decisiveness. I need to tell her about the time that I started this business and I took the risk and I did this and I did that. And they start to spill their CV logically. It's like, I am a entrepreneur. I do this. My mom is this. And I saved the fucking bear from a tree one day. And it's just like superficial, surface level, very plain and logical communication, which just doesn't work. And that's kind of like missing the point of the subcommunication. They're looking for your energy. For example, how are you conveying yourself when you speak to them, right? Are you being comfortable? Are you being at ease? Are you being, to some extent, entitled, right? Are you nervous? Because, for example, if you sit next to somebody who is extremely anxious or nervous, you get that energy of them without even them having to tell you that they're feeling anxious or nervous. It's the same way with subcommunication. It's the same way with talking to women. They feel it off you, no matter what technique you use, no matter what word you're saying, or no matter what car or clothes you're wearing. The effect doesn't change if your subcommunication isn't dialed in. And this brings me on to another point of how women and men experience attraction. You see, women experience attraction very differently than us. Men, we look at a girl and by just the visual cues, we feel whether we're attracted to this girl or not, right? You look at a hot girl, you're like, yes, I want to sleep with her, or no, she's not attractive, I don't want her. But women respond to attraction very differently, right? Guys are like an on and off switch. It's either on or it's off. But the women is like a volume knob, okay? They need time spent with you to see what kind of guy you are, to see if there is any cracks over time. They want to see you in different environments and they want to see how people react to you. They want to see how you react to different scenarios and different situations that life throws at you to see if you're the real deal. It's a volume knob. It takes time for them to see who you are on a deep core level to then make a conclusion as to, are you the guy or you're not the guy who you are presenting yourself to be. So let's talk about some examples of what things women look for in terms of your behavior. So the first and simplest one is eye contact. You can basically tell how comfortable somebody is by simply looking at their eyes. Their eyes are literally, the door to the soul, like we say. So if someone is like just fidgeting and looking down when they're speaking to you or looking away and stuff all the time, then you feel like they're not really congruent, they're not comfortable, they're not confident. But if someone has laser eye contact with a nice, neutral to kind of friendly facial expression, and they're looking into your eyes and they're calm and composed and they hold the gaze for a healthy amount of time, now you have a different perspective or perception of how confident that person is. Another thing that women pick on is, for example, your tonality. If you go up in pitch, for example, when you say to a girl, how are you? You can say, hey, how are you? Or you can say, hey, how are you? Or like, how are you, right? You see how the tonality goes up. And when the tonality goes up, it's basically supplicating. You're indirectly communicating that your value is here and that her value is here, okay? And you're supplicating. You only speak to someone in an upwards tonality when they are higher status than you. And when you do this, you're obviously not helping the subcommunication and therefore her perceived value of you in the hierarchy of men. And another thing is body language. Now, I don't want you to think too much about body language because all it is just about being comfortable and being relaxed, right? Just being at ease with yourself. The same what I'm saying right now, I'll still be talking about, to a girl, the same what I'm saying here. It's not about having like your arms crossed or having your legs 2 inches forward and the other one backwards. That's not what it's about. It's about just being at ease with yourself and just feeling comfortable and being comfortable in the space, right? Don't overthink body language. And another thing that women look for is just your individuality, your playfulness, your quirkiness, just being congruent with yourself and your weirdness. This is what makes you, as cliche as this sounds. And this is why pickup lines don't work. People don't understand that pickup lines are just a gimmick, because you could take 2 guys and give them the same pickup lines and they go and say them in different ways. Well, one is going to land and one is not going to land, especially if you don't say it in the right way. So this is just a gimmick that people use and think, again, it's about the words, but it's not really about the words. It's about the energy that you convey. And I keep saying this, but it's so powerful. And these are examples. Pickup lines do not work if you say them the wrong way. And I will give you an example, because yesterday I did an approach and I approached this very cute, very analyst girl. She's, very kind of geeky looking, but very attractive. And I said a joke, which I will describe just now. So I was wearing wired earphones and she asked me, why are you wearing wired earphones? Because we were talking about, she had headphones on and how big they were. And I was saying that because I didn't want to have a Bluetooth pack inside my pocket, because when you take your earphones off, when they're Bluetooth, you have to put them into a pack to essentially recharge those. So I didn't want that to be in my pocket because it would essentially just give it a bulge in my pocket. And I didn't like this. A bulge is also the shape that your penis has when you're wearing tight clothing. There is a bulge, it sticks out. So that's what we called a bulge. And what I said to her when I explained, I said I did not want to have another bulge in my pants because I already have one. And she actually responded extremely well to this. And she said, I quote, after she had laughed at my joke, she said, that normally would not land. And that is a very good example of how when you're playful, because I said it in a playful way, when you're playful and when you're being kind of like flirtatious, sarcastic, like it's obviously a game and you're not being serious, it just lands much, much better. So it's not really about the words, it's really about how you say things. And this leads me into another point, which is attraction is not static in terms of the women's view. So a woman can be attracted to you at some point when you're being very confident. If you go for the first few minutes and you're being extremely confident and extremely fun, she will be, okay, fine, great, this guy is attractive, he's fun and everything. And then say you slip up and you do something wrong and you say the wrong thing, or you drop the whole kind of confidence and everything, and then all of a sudden she's not attracted to you anymore. But you become confident again and you start acting in a confident way again, and now attraction rebuilds again. So it's not static, okay? It's more so about the overall picture of who you are as a man at the end of all the journey, of all the information that she's gathered about you as a man, to then dictate, okay, this is how much value this guy has, this is where he sits in the hierarchy of value in men. And now, obviously, if you've done a good job, you are most likely for her to say, okay, good, I'm going to sleep with this guy, or I'm going to get involved with this guy. So it's not static, it does change. So you can go through phases where, okay, you're not maximizing your attraction, but you know that you can, ramp it up later on if you are in a situation where, you are looking very attractive and you're able to display that attraction. And this is what game is. And I'm going to read a quote that really dictates and defines what game really is. It's about finding ways to make yourself more attractive. It's about developing those inner traits that make you attractive to women and communicate value. It's not about putting a front to manipulate people into thinking you're high value. It's becoming an attractive guy at the core. That there is game. Now, yes, there are techniques and things that you can use in your game to help you get results. But if you are not that attractive guy at the core, or if you're not working on being attractive in your core, the techniques, the lines, the this, the that, the other is not going to get you far ahead. If you think about this analogy and you think about a tree, and in a tree you have obviously the roots and you have the trunk and the branches. And if you think about game as the following, you have the core attraction, which is the branches, and you have the techniques and everything, which are the tree trunks and the branches. And if you do not have a strong basis, a strong foundation on which your tree can sit on, well, the tree is just going to fall over. The techniques are just not going to work. And that is the foundation of learning this stuff, because you can go through years of theory, years of knowing the techniques, knowing what to say, knowing all this stuff. But if it doesn't come from a congruent place with the stuff that you're saying, with the techniques that you're applying, there is going to be a mismatch. And like we said, women pick up on the sub-communication. They pick on the things, not the words, not the things you're wearing, not the flashy stuff, but more so how you are expressing all this stuff. All these tools that you have, are they coming from the real you, or are they coming from the cracks that you're trying to cover? It's like, picture you're talking to a girl that you're not attracted to, and then she whips out a Chanel lipstick and she puts it on and she's like, okay, are you attracted to me now? Look, I've got a Chanel lipstick, I've got the heels on, right? Like, if you're not attracted to her, if she's fucking fat, like, you're not attracted to her. It doesn't matter what shtick or what gimmick she does. You just want nothing to do with her. It's the same with game. If you're not being attractive at your core in the way you're communicating, the things that you're going to say, the things that I'm going to teach you here are not going to work as well. You have to force yourself to make a shift. You have to force yourself to become the guy that you want to become. And you have to reverse engineer the person that you want to be, and reverse engineer the experiences and the things that that guy had to do to become the person that he is today. You have to picture your future self and understand who you want to be, break down and understand the situation and the experiences that he had to go through in order to develop that skill of becoming the guy he is today. So this is not about changing yourself. It's about evolving. It's about adapting. It's about leveling up. It's about unlocking new levels within yourself and your traits and your ability and your skill. And if we look at, say, your future self and the guy you want to be, he's probably got the following things, and that is probably confidence with women. He's very good with women. And you have to understand, okay, what did he need to do to become that guy? What are the experiences, the challenges he had to overcome to become that guy? Well, he's probably had to be around a lot of women, a lot of attractive girls, desensitize himself to this fear of being around attractive women, and essentially develop that skill, right? Another skill that the future you might have is being socially savvy, being extremely skilled when it comes to meeting people and socializing. Well, he must have been in social situations where he had to understand what is the right thing to do and what is the right thing to not do. He had to be in situations where he had to learn, okay, this is what is needed to be done in this social situation for me to achieve portraying my value, showing my value, or getting inside this exclusive venue, or getting this connection, or showing that I am worth being in this room. So you have to really reverse engineer the skills and the things that you have to learn, or you have had to learn to become the guy that you're trying to be. And another thing your future self probably has is a positive outlook and a positive assumption of the world. And that is probably cultivated through having more positive experiences in the world than negative ones. So if right now your view of the world is negative and your perception of the world is negative, well, you have to put yourself in situations where positive things can happen so that you can outweigh and essentially outnumber negative experiences that you have had, so that your outlook changes, flips from negative to positive. And that's simply by just doing the reps and putting yourself in situations where you build the reference experiences that are positive enough to outweigh the negative ones. So the best way to actually learn game and become good at this stuff is by every single day taking small incremental steps to get closer to the person that you're trying to become. And it's going to be quite difficult because we're talking about, all your life and kind of years of social conditioning that you have to essentially debunk, break down, and rebuild a brand new identity around new beliefs and new views and essentially new lenses that you see the world. And that takes time, okay? If you think about it, since you were a little boy, since you were a young person, you are being conditioned into believing some things that might not always necessarily be true, especially with the stuff we're talking about when it comes to success with women. So you have to every day chip away at breaking that social conditioning and rebuilding the correct views and the correct beliefs that are going to get you to where you want, because only you can do this, and it's about taking action. But most importantly, people think that, it's going to take time and it's going to be a long journey and everything. You'll be surprised how the little tiny tweaks that you do now will impact your result. I'm talking about a matter of days, like weeks. And that is the power of this stuff. Like if you make some of the crucial tweaks now, you can start getting results this week. Like you will see your demeanor, you will see your energy, you will see yourself change into closer to the person that you're trying to become. And this is the biggest mistake that guys do. They think that, it has to happen quickly. They think that, look, they will just use the techniques and they will just, do the kind of the shtick and they will get the result that they want and they will get their dream girl. But the truth is, even if that works, as we've spoken about how women keep testing men throughout life, really, to make sure that the guy that they've picked is still the right person and he's not just kind of faking it. If you're not congruent with the guy that you're trying to be, it's going to show. So you have to become good with women in general. Because if you don't, she is going to test you throughout your lifetime being with her, and the cracks will start to show. And then now, because you're trying to hide those cracks, you're going to become extremely needy. And now she's lost completely full attraction for you. And now you're back to square one, okay? So this is why this stuff has to be internalized as opposed to just techniques you do on the outside. Remember what we said. Women don't judge you for what they see about you. They judge you for how you behave, how you carry yourself, and how the world responds to you. And funny enough, the world will respond to you based on how you carry yourself and how you communicate. If I communicate with you as a low energy, low value person, you will not take me as seriously. But if I communicate with you with confidence, assertiveness, assurance, you will take me a little bit more seriously. And it's funny how it's a loop, it's a circle. It just, it goes over itself. And another mistake that guys do is they wait for luck. They're like, you know what, I'll get lucky and I'll find my dream girl. Well, first of all, that's not going to happen, but say hypothetically it happens, it's not going to work for the point that I've just made before this one. But most importantly, you will have more luck working on yourself than just waiting, because any success in life has taken place when preparation meets opportunity, and that creates luck. Luck is not just you sitting, hoping that it will happen. You have to get prepared enough for that opportunity to be capitalized on. That is what the definition of luck is. Because if you're not prepared, that opportunity is just not going to be capitalized on. So your preparation is you doing the work that we're talking about now, so that when you see the person that you want to meet, or you see the girl that you want to meet, you are ready to take action and you're ready to pull the trigger and you're ready to capitalize on that opportunity. And this, brother, is what we call game. It's about taking control of your life. It's about being in the driver's seat. It doesn't matter what you think your limiting beliefs are, which we will debunk in this as well. But you have to take control of your life. You have to jump in the driver's seat because, bro, life has so much to offer. There is so much to be experienced, so much to live. And your time here is limited like everyone. So make the most out of it and learn game. See you on the next one.